Imagine waking up to a battlefield, not one of swords and shields, but of emotions, stress, and chaos. Every morning, before you even step out of bed, the war begins. An unanswered message from someone you care about, a last-minute demand from your boss, a stranger cutting you off in traffic, a betrayal from someone you trusted. These are not physical attacks, but they strike just as hard. Your heart pounds, frustration rises, your mind screams for control. And this is how most people live, constantly reacting, constantly at war with the world around them. Every insult, every setback, every inconvenience pulls them into an emotional battlefield where they are destined to lose. They fight against things they cannot change, allowing external forces to dictate their inner peace. But what if there was another way? What if you could become untouchable? What if no insult, no failure, no unexpected disaster could shake you? Imagine walking through life like an immovable force, calm, controlled, unbothered by the chaos around you. Not because you suppress your emotions, but because you master them. This is not a fantasy. This is Stoicism, an ancient philosophy designed to train your mind like a warrior. And today, you will learn how to build an unshakable mind. By the end of this, you won't just understand Stoicism, you'll live it. So the question is, are you ready to take control of your mind and never be defeated by life again? 1. The root of chaos. Why most people break under pressure. A man sits at a long conference table, his fingers gripping the edge as tension coils inside him like a loaded spring. Across from him, his boss leans forward, voice sharp, words slicing through the air like daggers. "This is unacceptable. I expected more from you." The room falls silent, eyes darting toward him, waiting for his reaction. His pulse pounds in his ears. His vision narrows. His hands clench. Then, like an explosion, he fires back. His voice rises, defenses flare, excuses spill out. His frustration erupts unchecked, a force beyond his control. Within seconds, the damage is done. The moment he steps out of the room, he knows. His reputation is tarnished, his credibility shaken, his future at the company in jeopardy. This scenario plays out in different forms every day. A driver honks aggressively and someone yells back. A friend makes a careless remark and resentment festers. A mistake is made, and instead of solving the problem, frustration clouds judgment. The cycle repeats endlessly. People lose their peace over things they cannot control. Their emotions hijacked by situations they don't even remember a week later. They believe their reactions are justified, that anger, frustration, and stress are natural responses to life's unfairness. But in truth, they are prisoners of a fundamental illusion, the belief that external events dictate their emotions. The reality is far more unsettling. Your mind is not reacting to what happens. It is reacting to your interpretation of what happens. Two people can face the exact same situation. One remains calm, the other explodes in rage. The difference is not in the event, but in the meaning they assign to it. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The insult, the failure, the disrespect. It is not these things themselves that cause distress, but the weight we give them in our minds. A Stoic understands this truth at the deepest level. He does not fight reality, he shapes his perception of it. But most people never reach this level of control. Their minds are ruled by a survival mechanism buried deep within the brain, the amygdala. This ancient part of the mind is wired for instant reaction, designed to detect threats and respond with fight or flight. It does not differentiate between a lion in the wild and an insult in a meeting. It treats both as attacks. The moment you feel threatened, whether physically or emotionally, your body floods with cortisol, adrenaline surges, your breathing shortens, and rationality fades. This is why arguments escalate, why tempers flare, why people lash out in ways they later regret. It is not logic controlling them. It is a primal reaction, centuries of evolutionary programming overpowering the rational mind. A Stoic, however, does not allow this autopilot response to dictate his actions. He understands that between stimulus and response there is a space, and in that space lies freedom. The freedom to pause, the freedom to detach, the freedom to choose a response rather than be controlled by impulse. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, a man who faced betrayals, wars, and crises beyond imagination, never let these forces dictate his peace. He understood what few do. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Think about the last time you lost control. Maybe it was a heated argument where you said things you later regretted. Maybe it was an email that sent you spiraling into frustration. Maybe it was something small, a delay, a mistake, a rude comment that stole hours of your peace. Now ask yourself, did your reaction improve the situation? Did it change anything for the better? Or did it only drain your energy, pull you further from clarity, and leave you weaker than before? Anger, frustration, stress, these emotions feel powerful, but they are not strength, they are surrender. When you let the outside world dictate your inner state, you are no longer in control. The Stoic does not play this game. He does not waste his energy fighting what he cannot change. Instead, he focuses on the only battle that matters, the one inside his own mind. Consider the man in the meeting. What if he had paused? What if, instead of reacting instantly, he had breathed, observed his thoughts, and responded with clarity? He would have maintained his authority, his reputation intact. He would have remained in command, not just of the situation, but of himself. This is what separates those who are controlled by life from those who master it. Every moment of anger is a test. Every trigger is an opportunity. The next time something pushes you to react, do nothing, not immediately. Instead, recognize the gap between the event and your response. Watch your mind try to pull you into an emotional spiral. Then remind yourself, I control this, no one else. Because once you understand this, something incredible happens. The world loses its power over you. The insult, meaningless. The failure, just a step forward. The betrayal, proof of someone else's character, not yours. You stop being a slave to the chaos around you. You stop breaking under pressure. And when that happens, you don't just gain control, you gain power. True, unshakable power. The kind that no one can take from you. The kind that makes you untouchable. So, the question is, what will you do the next time chaos strikes? Will you fall like everyone else, a victim of your own emotions, or will you rise above it, unshaken, untouchable, truly free? 2. The Stoic's weapon, detachment from external chaos. The news hit like a hammer. The company he built for over a decade was on the verge of collapse. Investors were pulling out, stocks were plummeting, and within weeks, bankruptcy seemed inevitable. His employees whispered behind closed doors, waiting for the moment their leader would crack. A CEO standing at the edge of financial ruin, most would panic, drown in self-doubt, lash out in desperation. But he did none of those things. While others saw catastrophe, he saw an equation, a situation to be handled, not feared. He walked into his office, sat down, and calmly asked his team one question: what is still within our control? The room, once filled with anxious murmurs, fell silent. They expected frustration, anger, despair, any reaction that mirrored the chaos they felt inside. But instead, they saw a man unmoved, detached from the outcome they feared so much. Over the next few months, he made the toughest decisions of his life. He cut costs, restructured the business, negotiated deals that seemed impossible. He did not let emotions cloud his vision, and against all odds, the company survived, not because of luck, not because of hope, but because he understood what most people never do. The outcome was never in his control to begin with. Most people live their lives attached to results. They tie their emotions to every success, every failure, every unexpected twist of fate. If things go well, they feel invincible. If things go wrong, they spiral into self-doubt, frustration, or even despair. But the truth is, external events have never been in our control. The market fluctuates, people change, accidents happen, relationships end. Those who rely on external stability for inner peace are like a leaf in the wind, constantly tossed, constantly reacting, never grounded. But a Stoic sees the world differently. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, wrote Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. The philosophy is simple, yet brutally effective. Your emotions should never be dictated by results. What happens outside of you is irrelevant. What matters is how you respond. This is the power of detachment from outcome, a principle that separates those who thrive under pressure from those who break. It does not mean apathy. It does not mean giving up. It means shifting your focus from what might happen to what you can do right now. But detachment is not easy. The mind is conditioned to crave certainty. It wants guarantees. It wants control. It wants to believe that with enough effort, the universe will bend to its will, and when reality refuses to comply, frustration builds. Imagine the last time something didn't go as planned, a job interview you prepared for but didn't get, a relationship you invested in but fell apart, a project you poured your soul into but was ignored. The disappointment, the anger, the overwhelming feeling of unfairness, all of it stems from a simple illusion, the belief that things should have turned out differently. A Stoic does not indulge in this illusion. He understands that effort and outcome are two separate things. He focuses only on the effort. What comes after? Irrelevant. If you work hard and succeed, good. If you work hard and fail, good. Either way, your effort was the only part that was ever in your control. Attach yourself to that, and nothing, no rejection, no loss, no failure, can ever shake you. The next time you find yourself consumed by an outcome, stop. Ask yourself, what is still in my control? Shift your focus entirely to that. If you're waiting for an answer that might change your life, instead of agonizing over it, focus on your next move. If you're stuck in a situation where things seem to be falling apart, instead of drowning in frustration, ask yourself what action you can take right now. This shift is everything. It pulls you away from helplessness and puts you back in command, not of the world, but of yourself. This is the mindset that allowed warriors, emperors, and leaders to remain composed in moments of absolute disaster. It is the reason Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome through plagues, betrayals, and wars without ever losing control. It is the reason great negotiators stay calm under immense pressure. And it is the reason you, too, can become untouchable. But detachment is not just a theory. It must be practiced. Every morning before you start your day, take a moment to visualize. Picture one thing that might go wrong today. A plan might fail. Someone might disappoint you. A conversation might not go the way you expect. Accept it before it happens. Mentally prepare yourself, not by fearing it, but by understanding that if it does happen, it changes nothing about who you are and what you can do. The moment you embrace this practice, something profound happens. You stop living in fear of what might go wrong. You stop dreading outcomes because you have already made peace with them. And when you finally detach yourself from what you cannot control, you discover the greatest strength of all, absolute clarity in action. Because once you are no longer ruled by results, once you are no longer a slave to outcomes, you gain something that most people spend their whole lives searching for: freedom. 3. The Stoic Training. Practical methods to build an unshakable mind. A man sits in a high-stakes negotiation room, face to face with an armed criminal holding 12 hostages. The atmosphere is suffocating. Every movement, every breath, every second matters. One wrong word, one miscalculated response, and lives could be lost. The hostage-taker shouts, his voice trembling with desperation and rage. The entire room tenses, expecting the negotiator to react, panic, plead, retaliate. But he does nothing. He remains perfectly still, silent for just a few seconds. And in that silence, something changes. The tension shifts. The power dynamic reverses. Because in a situation where emotions run wild, the one who does not react controls everything. Most people will never face a hostage situation, but they will face something just as dangerous: the battle against their own impulses. A careless insult, an unexpected setback, a personal attack. These moments are the everyday wars that determine who we are. Most people lose these battles without realizing it. They react instantly without thinking, ruled by emotions instead of reason. But a Stoic wins before the battle even begins. Because he does not react, he responds. He does not lose himself, he observes himself. And because of this, he is unshakable. The difference between those who break under pressure and those who remain calm is not luck. It is not intelligence, it is training. The mind, like any muscle, can be conditioned to handle stress with absolute composure. And today, you will learn how. The first weapon in the Stoic arsenal is so simple, yet so powerful, that it is used by elite soldiers, FBI negotiators, and master tacticians alike: the 3-second rule. The moment you feel an emotional trigger, anger, frustration, defensiveness, pause for 3 seconds. Do nothing, say nothing, breathe in, breathe out. Then ask yourself, will my reaction change this situation for the better? In most cases, the answer is no. Those 3 seconds are a gateway from impulse to logic, from reaction to mastery. Most people believe strength is about force, about dominating a situation with aggression. But in reality, strength is restraint. The most powerful person in the room is always the one who remains composed when everyone else loses control. Imagine 2 people in an argument. One is consumed by emotion, voice rising, words flying recklessly. The other simply watches, listening, detached from the storm. Who holds the power? Who will walk away victorious? The one who does not react. Every great warrior understands this. A boxer who throws wild punches in anger loses to the one who stays patient and calculated. A leader who lets emotions dictate decisions collapses under pressure. A negotiator who speaks too soon gives away his leverage. In every arena of life, control belongs to the one who does not let the moment control him. But this is only the beginning. True mastery is not just about resisting reaction, it is about shifting perspective entirely. This is where the observer's mindset comes in. The greatest Stoics did not simply control their emotions, they detached from them. They saw emotions not as identity, but as passing weather. You are not your anger, you are not your stress, you are the observer of them. The moment you separate yourself from emotion, you gain the ability to analyze it, manipulate it, and ultimately dominate it. A perfect example of this is found in one of the most dangerous professions in the world, hostage negotiation. A trained negotiator does not see threats as personal attacks. He sees them as data. A man screaming in rage, that is a sign of fear. A criminal making unreasonable demands, that is a sign of desperation. By detaching from the emotion of the moment, he sees clearly what others miss, and because of that, he wins. Most people, however, fail this test every day. Someone insults them, and they take it personally. A plan goes wrong, and they drown in frustration. A challenge arises, and they crumble under the weight of emotion. But the truth is, an insult is just sound waves, meaningless unless you assign meaning to it. A setback is just an event, neutral until you frame it negatively. The moment you step outside yourself and observe rather than react, you break free from the prison of emotional slavery. But mastering the mind under pressure requires preparation, and that is where premeditatio malorum, the mental rehearsal of adversity, becomes essential. The Stoics did not wait for chaos to test them. They tested themselves before chaos arrived. Every morning, they practiced imagining the worst-case scenarios of the day ahead. A betrayal, a failure, a rejection, not as a way to cultivate fear, but to vaccinate the mind against it. Elite military units use the same technique. Navy SEALs mentally prepare for failure before missions begin. They visualize losing communication, their equipment breaking, even getting captured. Why? Because when the worst happens, they are already emotionally prepared. They have rehearsed their response so many times that fear has no place left to grow, and because of that, they remain unshaken in the most terrifying conditions. Imagine if you trained your mind in the same way. Instead of hoping for an easy day, you expect adversity. You picture the deal falling through. You imagine the flight getting cancelled. You foresee the difficult conversation going badly. And instead of resisting, you accept. If this happens, I will handle it. If this happens, I will remain composed. Then, when adversity strikes, it does not feel like an attack. It feels like something you have already conquered. The world is unpredictable. People will insult you. Plans will fail. Life will test you. But nothing, absolutely nothing, has the power to shake you unless you allow it to. A Stoic does not beg for an easier world. He trains for a stronger mind. He does not hope that life will go his way. He prepares to thrive no matter what happens. Right now, ask yourself, how many times have I let small inconveniences steal my peace? How often have I lost control over things that, in hindsight, did not matter? And then ask yourself the most important question of all. What if, from this moment forward, nothing could break my composure again? The answer is simple. Train like a Stoic, prepare like a warrior, detach like a negotiator, and watch as the world, once so chaotic, becomes something that no longer controls you. 4. The final level, Memento Mori, how accepting death ends all fear. He remembers the sound first, the screeching tires, the shattering glass, the metallic crunch as his car folded in on itself. Then silence. He awoke in a hospital bed, the white ceiling above him blurred by the pain searing through his body. The accident had been brutal. By all logic, he shouldn't have survived. But he did, and as he lay there, staring at the ceiling, a single thought echoed in his mind. Why did I waste so much time on things that didn't matter? Before that moment, his life had been filled with worry. He stressed over deadlines, over arguments, over how others perceived him. He spent years obsessing over things he couldn't control: money, opinions, the past, the future. But now, on the other side of death's door, all of it seemed absurd. The things that once consumed his mind no longer had power. The worries, the insecurities, the fears. They had been nothing more than illusions, shadows cast by a life that felt infinite. But life was not infinite. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think, wrote Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. It is a truth so simple yet so terrifying that most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. Death is the one certainty, the final reality that no one escapes. And yet, instead of embracing it, people fear it. They distract themselves with trivialities, pretending that they have unlimited time. But the Stoic does not turn away. He looks directly at death, not with fear, but with clarity. Because when you truly accept death, something extraordinary happens. Fear dissolves. The opinions of others lose their grip on you. The need for validation, the attachment to petty conflicts, the stress over insignificant setbacks, all of it vanishes. Suddenly, you are free. You realize that there is nothing to lose because life was never yours to keep in the first place. But most people will never reach this understanding. They live as if they will never die. They let small inconveniences ruin their days, as if those days were infinite. They waste energy on resentment, as if they had centuries to hold grudges. They postpone dreams, telling themselves there's always tomorrow, but one day there won't be. And when that moment comes, most will look back with regret, not over what they did, but over what they never had the courage to do. A Stoic does not wait for a near-death experience to wake up. He practices death before it arrives. This is Memento Mori, the constant remembrance that life is fleeting. To remind himself, he does not fearfully dwell on death, but embraces it as a guiding force. Every day he asks, if this were my last, would I be proud of how I lived? Imagine if you lived with this awareness. The next time you find yourself frustrated over traffic, over a rude comment, over something meaningless, ask yourself, if I had one day left, would this bother me? The next time fear holds you back from taking a risk, from speaking the truth, from chasing something you desire, ask yourself, if I were dying tomorrow, would I regret not doing this today? Most fears collapse under the weight of this question. The fear of embarrassment, of failure, of rejection, none of it matters in the face of death. The things you were too afraid to say suddenly become urgent. The people you took for granted suddenly become priceless. The wasted hours, the pointless distractions, the endless scrolling, the meaningless arguments, all of it feels like insanity, because it is. This is not about living recklessly. It is about living deliberately, about choosing every action, every word, every moment with intention, about stripping away everything unnecessary until only what truly matters remains. The greatest minds in history understood this. Samurai warriors meditated on their deaths daily, so that when battle came, they fought without fear. Roman generals, after victory, would have a slave whisper in their ear, "Memento Mori." Remember that you are mortal. Even Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the most powerful empire in the world, carried this truth with him at all times. If the most powerful men in history, men who ruled, who fought, who stood at the peak of human achievement, could accept death, why can't you? You are already dying. Not someday, not years from now. Every second, every moment, you are moving closer to the inevitable. This is not meant to be frightening. It is meant to be liberating. Because once you stop trying to outrun death, once you stop pretending you have endless time, you start truly living. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. If today were my last, did I live it the way I wanted to? If the answer is no, then change. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Because the truth is, you don't know how many tomorrows you have left. And that is the final lesson of Stoicism. Not just to control your emotions, not just to detach from outcomes, not just to train your mind to remain calm, but to live fully, completely, without fear. Because once you understand that death is coming, you realize that the only thing left to do is make every moment count. 5. The Stoics' final test. Chaos simulation training. A crowded intersection. A driver cuts in front of you, nearly scraping your car. Your pulse spikes, hands grip the steering wheel, and for a split second, the urge to react is overwhelming. Anger rises. The instinct to honk, to yell, to let the frustration take over. It's immediate. But stop. Right here, right now, this is the test. This is the battlefield where your training is either proven or lost. Will you be ruled by impulse, or will you take control? Most people live their lives in a state of constant reactivity. An email with a sharp tone sends them spiraling. A disagreement turns into a grudge. A stranger's rude remark ruins their entire day. They believe they are in control, but in reality, they are puppets. Controlled not by their own will, but by the chaos around them. The slightest provocation hijacks their emotions, pulling them into battles they never chose to fight. They are soldiers who have never trained, stepping onto a battlefield unarmed. A Stoic does not live this way. He prepares. He anticipates chaos before it comes, training his mind so that no event, no person, no moment of disorder can shake him. And the only way to reach this level is through chaos simulation training, the ultimate test of emotional control. This is not philosophy, this is practice. Right now, as you read this, the test begins. Close your eyes. Imagine the following scenarios happening to you in real time. You are driving, and a reckless driver swerves in front of you, forcing you to brake suddenly. Your heartbeat spikes. The old version of you would have cursed, reacted, allowed rage to flood your system. But now, you pause. You observe the anger, detached from it. You breathe, and you move on. Picture another moment. You check your phone and see an email from your boss, laced with condescension and unnecessary criticism. You feel the immediate sting of injustice. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, ready to fire back, ready to defend yourself. But then you remember, this is the test. You stop, you breathe, you ask yourself, does my reaction serve me, or does it control me? And in that moment, you choose mastery over impulse. Now imagine yourself in a meeting. Someone publicly questions your competence, throwing an unfair critique your way. The room falls silent, eyes watching, waiting for your response. The old you would have snapped back, engaged in a battle of words, let emotions take the wheel. But the trained mind sees differently. You do not react. You let the words settle in the air, meaningless unless you give them weight. You see through the illusion. This is not about you. It is about them. And so instead of fighting, you smile. You remain untouched. And because you refuse to play their game, you win without even engaging. At this moment, your mind may be resisting. But I can't just let people disrespect me. But I can't let things slide. But I need to respond. These thoughts are the last chains of your old self, the final illusions that keep you reactive. The truth is, you owe no one a reaction. Your power does not lie in proving yourself. It lies in remaining unmoved when the world expects you to crumble. The great Roman general Scipio was once asked why he never reacted to insults, never let the words of his enemies rattle him. His response was simple: I am not a slave to their emotions. He understood something that most never do. Every reaction you give is a gift of power to someone else. The moment you snap, you lose. The moment you allow someone to dictate your emotions, you are no longer in control. A Stoic does not play this game. He is not an actor in someone else's drama. He is the director of his own life. So how do you train for this? The key is preparation before the storm. Just as a warrior sharpens his sword before battle, you must sharpen your mind before chaos arrives. Each morning, visualize at least one potential disruption in your day. Maybe your coworker will say something irritating. Maybe your plans will get delayed. Maybe someone will challenge you in a way that triggers an emotional response. Whatever it is, see it happening in your mind before it actually does. Now, imagine your response, not the old version of you, but the Stoic version of you. Calm, detached, unbothered. If you do this every day, something remarkable happens. The moment chaos strikes, it feels familiar. You've rehearsed it, you've trained for it. And because of that, you no longer react. You respond with precision. But be warned, the real test will not come when you are expecting it. It will come when you are tired, when you are caught off guard, when stress has worn you down. That is when your training will be tested. And in that moment, you will either fall back into old habits or you will rise above them. The next time frustration creeps in, the next time anger tempts you, stop. Take 3 seconds. Let the emotion pass through you like wind through an open window. Then remind yourself, this is only a test. I control my response. Because if you can pass this test daily, if you can train your mind to remain still while the world is in turmoil, then you are no longer like everyone else. You are no longer controlled. You are unshakable. 6. The daily Stoic habit, your 7-day mind training plan. The mind is like a wild horse, untamed, reactive, unpredictable. Most people spend their entire lives being dragged by it, allowing emotions, impulses, and external chaos to dictate their actions. They snap at insults, obsess over failures, stress over the uncontrollable. But a Stoic? A Stoic does not let the horse run wild. He trains it. He sharpens his mind daily, ensuring that when the storm arrives, he does not waver. He does not hope for calm. He prepares for it. This is not about reading philosophy. It is about conditioning your brain, rewiring your reactions, and becoming untouchable under pressure. And for that, you need a system. A structured, deliberate 7-day mental training plan designed to break old habits and forge a new level of control. If you commit, If you execute each step fully, by the end of this, you will no longer be the same person. You will not just understand Stoicism, you will embody it. Day 1. Observe your thoughts. Pause before every reaction. The moment something irritates you, a rude comment, a delay, an inconvenience, do not act immediately. Instead, write it down. Capture the thought as if you were an outsider documenting another person's frustration. This is not just a journal exercise, it is a mental intervention. The simple act of writing forces separation between you and your emotions, making you realize that they are not you, they are merely passing phenomena. Most people react because they believe their emotions are real, urgent, and personal. But when you see your frustration on paper, you recognize the truth. It is just a temporary state, one that can be controlled. A Stoic sees anger not as something to indulge, but as something to analyze. The moment you observe, you weaken its grip. Day 2. Practice silence. When provoked, do not respond immediately. Let silence be your weapon. Most people's first instinct in conflict is to retaliate, to defend, to argue. But silence is power. It forces the other person to fill the space, exposing their own weakness. It disarms hostility, leaving them uncertain and unbalanced. The great Stoic king, Marcus Aurelius, faced constant political attacks and betrayals, yet he rarely responded in anger. He understood that most words are meaningless noise. Most insults are reflections of the speaker, not the target. Today, when someone pushes you, stay silent for 10 seconds. Feel the urge to react rise and let it pass. When you finally respond, do so with precision, not emotion. Day 3. Accept what you cannot control. Disappointment, anger, and stress all stem from the same illusion, the belief that you can control things that were never yours to command. A flight delay, a rude stranger, a decision made by someone else that affects you. These are external events, and external events are not yours to control. The next time something does not go as planned, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, let it go immediately. Do not waste a second arguing with reality. Imagine yourself standing in a river. If you fight the current, you exhaust yourself. If you flow with it, you remain at peace. A Stoic does not fight what he cannot change. He adapts, redirects, and moves forward. Day 4. Premeditatio malorum. Expect the unexpected. Every morning before your day begins, anticipate the worst-case scenario. Not to dwell in negativity, but to inoculate your mind against shock and frustration. Imagine that things will go wrong, plans will fail, people will disappoint you, unexpected obstacles will arise, and instead of resisting, accept it before it happens. The power of this practice is simple. When trouble comes, you are ready. If you expect perfection, reality will break you. But if you have already visualized setbacks, they lose their ability to disturb you. Navy SEALs train this way before combat. They mentally prepare for every failure, so when it happens, their emotions do not interfere with their judgment. Today, visualize your own struggles, then face them with calm when they arrive. Day 5. The observer's mindset. Imagine sitting in a theater, watching yourself on screen. See your day unfold, your interactions, your emotions, your reactions. Now, shift perspective. Detach from yourself. You are not the character. You are the audience. You are the one observing your emotions, not being consumed by them. A Stoic does not drown in his emotions. He sees them from a distance, studies them, and chooses his response. When you feel frustration, stress, or anger creeping in today, mentally step back. Ask, what if I were just watching this happen to someone else? The moment you see your emotions instead of becoming them, you win. Day 6. Do not react to the small things. Minor inconveniences have no right to steal your peace. Today, treat every small annoyance as a Stoic test. Traffic, delays, noise, someone being difficult. These are not problems. They are opportunities to train calmness. The world expects you to react. When you don't, you confuse it. You shift the power dynamic. Try this today. If someone cuts you off in traffic, smile. If someone is rude, remain indifferent. If plans change, adapt without complaint. Most people overreact to things that in the grand scheme mean nothing. A Stoic refuses to be one of them. Day 7. Memento Mori, the ultimate reflection. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, if today were my last, did I live it as a Stoic? Did I waste time on things that do not matter? Did I let trivial moments steal my peace? Did I react impulsively, or did I remain in control? When you face your mortality daily, you stop tolerating mediocrity in your actions. You stop postponing change. You stop indulging in petty emotions. Because the truth is, one day, this question will not be hypothetical. After 7 days, what changes? If you follow this system, you will notice something. The things that used to trigger you will lose their power. You will remain calm in moments where you once lost control. You will become an observer of emotions, not a slave to them. You will detach from nonsense, focus only on what matters, and live with a level of clarity and power that most people never reach. Most people never train their minds. They live in reaction, bouncing between emotions, prisoners of their own impulses. But you now have the tools to break free. The question is, will you commit to this training? Because if you do, you will not just understand Stoicism, you will live it. You have now entered the realm where few ever reach. The point where theory transforms into action, and action becomes identity. Through chaos simulation training, you faced your triggers head-on, proving that control is always a choice. Through the 7-day Stoic mind training plan, you've reprogrammed your mind, shedding reactivity, detaching from nonsense, and stepping into mastery. What once disturbed you now feels insignificant. What once controlled you is now beneath you. But this is not the end. There remains one final test, the ultimate realization that will define whether you simply understand Stoicism or truly embody it. Are you ready for the final step? Most people live as if they will never die, chained to emotions, reacting to things that, in the grand scheme, mean nothing. They allow frustration to dictate their actions, anger to hijack their peace, and fear to hold them back. But now you know the truth. The world cannot disturb you unless you allow it to. Every insult, every setback, every chaotic moment is nothing more than a test. And you, armed with the wisdom of the Stoics, are now trained to pass it. Mastering your mind is not a single decision. It is a lifelong discipline. It is the quiet strength of Marcus Aurelius ruling an empire in crisis. It is the resilience of Epictetus, who lost everything yet remained untouchable. It is the power of Seneca, who faced death with complete composure. And now, it is you. Every day you have the choice to react like the masses or to remain calm like a master. Choose wisely, because the moment you master your mind, you master your life. If you're ready to build an unshakable mind, type CALM in the comments. Let the world see your commitment. Share your experiences. When was the last time you remained calm in a situation that would have once broken you? Your journey inspires others. Like this video, send it to someone who needs it, and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. And before you go, ask yourself, if today were my last, would I be proud of how I lived? Because in the end, the only thing you ever truly own is your mind. And the only real question is, will you control it or will it control you?